In this project, we're going to use Microsoft Excel to look at the difficulty of two tests to determine if one is more difficult than the other. So we'll be using Excel to help us compute some statistics and also to get summaries and charts of the letter grades and also the pass-fail rates. So the first thing you need to do is compute the mean, median, and standard deviation. So you'll receive the spreadsheet. It'll look just like this. The data's already in here. I'm going to do it for version A mostly, and you'll need to do it for both versions A and B when you do it. But the first thing I'm going to compute is the mean. So I'm going to click here in cell F2 and the command or formula that we use for the mean is average. Every formula in Microsoft Excel starts with an equal sign. Okay, and so I'm going to follow that with the word average and then a left parenthesis. And then I'm going to highlight the data that I want to find the average of. So I'm going to come over to cell A2. I'm going to click and hold and drag until I get to the last cell, which is A3. So you can see here that it's put those cell references, A2 to A33, in my formula. Okay, and that's it. I'm going to close that with the right parenthesis, hit enter. That's how I compute my average. I could do the same thing for version B. I would say equals average, but this time I want to go from A, or rather B2 down to whatever its last cell is, and that's 80, or rather cell 42. Okay, so B2 to B42. Okay, and I can see I have that reference there. I'm going to close it with the right parenthesis and hit enter. Okay, so I found the mean and the mean for both versions A and version B. Now, like I said, I won't continue to do this for B, but just note that whenever we're doing it for B, we're referencing column B where our data is. And when we're doing it for A, we're referencing column A where our data is located. Okay. So to get the median, I'm going to do equals median. And again, I can either highlight the data, or now that I know that the cells that contain the data are A2 to A3, I can just, or 33 rather, I can just type that in and it's separated by a colon. All right, so A2 to A33, that gives me the median. And to get the standard deviation, I'm going to do equals STDEV. And again, A2 to A33. That gives me my standard deviation. Okay, you would repeat those same steps for version B for the median and standard deviation, looking at the data that's in column B. Okay, now to get the minimum, I'm just going to type equals min parentheses, and I can highlight the data or type in the cell reference. Okay, I'm going to close that with a right parenthesis and enter. Okay, that gives me my minimum value. And while we're doing it, I'll go ahead and get the maximum value by using equals max. Okay, and still we're doing A2 to A33. So the maximum grade for version A was a 98. The minimum is 53. Okay, I need to find the first and second quartiles. So we're going to do equals quartile. And again, I'm looking from A2 to A33. And I'm going to put 1 to indicate which quartile I want. And here I want the first quartile. Okay, for the median, we did that earlier. Or the median, we should know, is the same thing as the second quartile. Both the median and second quartile have 50% of the data above the median or second quartile and 50% below the median or second quartile. So I could either use the median formula just like we did up here, or we can try equals quartile. Again, I'm going from A2 to A33, and my quartile this time will be the second quartile. So I'm going to put a 2 there. Okay, I've got a little error. That should have been a colon. Okay. All right, so now we got it right. So it was A2 to A33, comma 2, and gives me the same value that we got above for the median. Okay, even though we used a different formula, but the second quartile and the median are the same. Okay, and then finally, I would do this for Q2. So we're going to start with equals quartile, and we're looking from A2 to A33. And the quartile I'm interested in this time is the third. And so we get 88. All right, so you want to do the same thing for version B. Now let's continue and get the summary for the letter grade distribution for version A of the test. So you could go through and manually count up the number of A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's, or we could use Excel to help us with this. So I'm going to encourage you to use Microsoft Excel to help us count these things. And so we're going to use a formula called count if. Okay, I'm going to click in cell L3 because this is where I want to know how many A's there were for version A of the test. So I'm going to start my formula with an equal sign. And then we're going to do count if. Okay, and so we need to tell it which range of values we're interested in counting. So I'm going to click on the label that says A. That means everything in column A. That's what we're looking at. And then we have to tell it, well, what item in particular are you interested in counting? So I'm interested in counting any grades or values that are greater than or equal to 90. So to say that, I'm going to use double quotes, my greater than symbol, equals, and then 90. And then we're going to close that out, the double quotes, and then close out with the right parenthesis. We'll hit enter, and it's counted those values for me. Okay, again, I could do this. And because I use the entire cell reference, I've got everything in column A, then I could do the same thing or get the values for version B simply by dragging over. Okay, we got that little magic square. I held it, dragged it, and now this says count if. We're looking at everything in column B, and the criteria is still greater than or equal to 90. Okay, so that's how we could do that, or you could just retype it there. Okay, and that works here because we're looking at the entire cell reference versus over here, we were only looking at cells 2 to 33. And if in version B we had the exact same number of values, we could have done that. But since version B has more observations, then we really do need to do them separately over here. Okay, but here again, we just reference the entire columns, so it works out where we can actually drag it over. Okay, but now let's go on and calculate the number of B's for version A of the test. And so I'm still going to use count if. And we're still looking at everything in column A. So we can either click on, well, it's easy enough to click on column A, or we could have typed A:A. And then the criteria, this time I'm going to say greater than or equal to 80. However, that includes the A grades. And I don't want the A grades. So what I'm going to do is close this off with my right parenthesis, and then I'm going to subtract the number of values that we found for A. So the COUNTIF counts everything that's greater than or equal to 80. But I want to exclude those things that we would consider as A's. So I clicked on the number of A's, and then I'm just going to hit enter, and that gives me the number of B grades. Okay, we can do the same thing for C's. So I'm going to do equals count if, okay, we're still looking at A to A, everything in column A. My criteria is going to be greater than or equal to 70, but then that still includes A's and B's. So I need to subtract off the number of B's and then subtract off the number of A's and hit enter. Okay, I've got a little typo somewhere. I forgot to end this. I forgot to end with my quotation mark here. Okay, so we've got to have quote greater than or equal to 70 quote. Okay, and now I'm going to hit enter. And so we get 7 C's. Okay, let's try that again. For the D's, we're going to do equals count if, and I'm counting from A to A. That's colon. Okay, the criteria is going to be if it's greater than or equal to 60. Okay, I'm going to end with my double quotes and now end with my right parenthesis. But this time I'm going to subtract off the number of C's. So I just say minus and I click on the cell where the C's are and subtract off the number of B's and then subtract off the number of A's and then enter. Okay, and then finally for the F's, I'm going to do equals count if, and we're still looking at range A, everything that's in column A. So I did A colon A, and we're going to say quote less than or equal to 59. Okay, so we're doing anything that's less than or equal to 59, we're going to count that. We don't have to worry about subtracting anything off because we went with less than this time. And so therefore, we have the number there. And again, the only thing I need to do is highlight all of these values, click on the little magic fill handle, and drag it over, and it will give me those values for version B of the test. Okay, well, how can we figure out how many passed and how many failed? Well, basically the same thing. We're going to do equals count if. We're still looking at everything in column A. And our criteria is going to be 60 or above will be passing. So we'll do quote greater than or equal to 60. We're going to do the end of our quotes and then close parenthesis. Okay. And then if we talk about the number that have failed, we're going to do equals count if. Okay, we're still looking at column A to A. And the criteria is going to be less than or equal to 59. So less than or equal to 59. And of course I need to put quotes around this. All right. And so we get 2. It's always a good idea to kind of count or sum your numbers to make sure that you have the right total. So I'm going to do that right here. I just clicked in cell L8 and I can say equals sum, and I'm going to highlight all the values whose sum I want to find. We get 32. Okay, and we can do basically the same thing here by saying equals. I'm clicking on the location where 30 is, a plus the location where 2 is, and obviously that gives us 32. And we had a total of 32 observations. We went down to line 33, but of course the first one doesn't count. That was just our label, so we only had 32 observations. Now let's take a look at how we can compare or prepare a pie chart for the distribution of letter grades. So first what I'm going to do is highlight the letter grades and the counts that we got for them, including the labels. So you can notice that I've highlighted from letter grade. I've also got version A highlighted. Each of the categories is highlighted, and then the frequencies that correspond with that category are highlighted. And then don't worry about highlighting the sum. Okay, just the portions that I have highlighted here. And of course, this first cell is highlighted. It just leaves it blank like that. That's how Excel chooses to do that. But we're going to go to Insert, and we want a chart. So I have here a choice for a pie chart. Okay, so I'm going to click there, and you can make it simple or a little fancier. Maybe I'll do a 3D chart like this. Okay, and now I need to get some more information. First of all, I'd like to be able to see the percentages for each category. So to do that, I'm going to right click, and we're going to add a data label. Again, it gave me the actual counts. I don't want the counts, I want the percents. So we're going to go, I clicked on those numbers. I'm going to go to Format, Data Labels, and instead of value, I want it to show me the percentage. Okay, and so that's what I want there. All right, now I need a title. Your chart should be able to stand alone for any time. So if someone picks up this chart 100 years from now, they should know exactly what this chart was supposed to be about. And so version A is not a title that is descriptive enough. So I'm going to change that title. I've clicked on it. I'm going to double click, maybe triple click, and we're going to say distribution of letter grades for version A of a test. Okay, and so that could be a more descriptive title. Okay, and then I've got a legend here. We need that, but sometimes we like to have a more apparent legend, like we could have the letters shown up here. So I'm going to click on, let's see, I'm going to click on the values, and I'm going to right click and say Format Data Labels, and I want to show the category name. Okay, so when I did that, then it really puts that information out there so that we can see it or whatever, and we can move this a little bit so that it's gets the best visibility on our graph, and we still have it here at the bottom. Okay, but that way everything's there. If you wanted to, you could change the size of the font, but this is good for right now. Okay, and so this is for version A. We need to repeat this for version B. Now that might be a little more difficult, only because we don't have the letter grades directly next to the numbers, the frequencies for version B. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight letter grades and all of the categories. Then I'm holding down my control key and I'm going to highlight the categories that um, or the cells that would contain the frequencies for version B. Okay, now that way those two are highlighted, and I would go back to insert, go back to charts, and then construct a similar pie chart. Okay, now since we're talking about making a comparison, it makes sense that we would want to use the same colors for each category. So don't let category B be orange for test A, and then it's blue for test B. That would make it hard to compare. So we want to do things visually that make it easy for us to compare um, the two tests and the different categories. Okay. Then you'll do the same thing for the pass fail rate. Okay, we're just going to highlight. Maybe we can call this outcome. Okay, and then you would highlight the categories and the frequencies. I would go to insert. I'm selecting a chart. Okay, I'm doing my 3D chart again. Okay, so there it is. I've got a little bit of a legend. I'm going to go ahead and change my title. Distribution of pass fail for version A of a test. Okay, and again, I want to get some labels on here. So I've clicked, I'm going to right click, and I'm saying add data labels. Okay, that's not the particular label that I want. So I'm going to click on the label. I'm going to right click and say format data labels. And this is where I could choose the percentage instead of the value. And if I want the category name, this one, is pretty easy since it's just two categories. So we could just look down here. But, I'll leave it up to you if you want to put those extenders on there or not. I'm not going to put them on there because that's messy. And then if I wanted to change my font size, I would go over here to home and just while these items are selected, increase the font. That makes it a little bit bigger so that it's easier to see. Okay. And that's another chart. Okay. We can just pull that down somewhere. Move it by the edge here. So we can pull it down and arrange things somewhere on your spreadsheet so that they're not, overlapping. And so forth. Okay. And then if you needed to, if you're writing a paper, then you can click on this chart. You can do Control C, and in a Word document or wherever you like, I can paste it by hitting my clipboard or doing Control V. And so now I can make some remarks about this chart or whatever. So that's how we get our chart from Excel to our Word document so that we can complete our report.